JoeTownsend.com is ready for you, with stories to chill you right through and through. Tales of terror and fright for your dark winter's night. At JoeTownsend.com, your screams will ring true. There's horror for holidays, wrapped with a bow. These books will give shivers high and low. Make your Christmas time weird with the stories you feared. JoeTownsend.com is the best place to go. Joe Townsend brings cheer in so many ways, as your beating heart sinks and each jangled nerve phrase.
Good evening. Hello and welcome to the show. Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery. This is a really fun month, of course, because I love Christmas, and Christmas radio was one of the great parts of old time radio. Christmas was celebrated on all kinds of shows. Of course, comedies and soap operas and family programming, but also on mystery shows, thriller shows, horror shows. This one kind of falls in there. This is an episode, probably, I think the first one. Yeah, the first one that I'm playing here on the Web of Mystery, from The Mysterious Traveler. Now, this was an amazing show. Hang on, I'm going to pull up my notes. And and I have got a great bunch of friends here. Just really thrilled to have you with me. And I can see some folks are watching us on Instagram too. Hi, welcome. I'm going to play an old time radio show for you. That's what I do here on Mr. Weber's Web O Mystery. And I want to give you a little information about the show. So here, I'm going to pull up my notes. Carefully written. Not at all. Totally cut and paste from Wikipedia. The Mysterious Traveler, mystery drama anthology series on old time radio. It ran from 1943 to 1952, just under 10 years. It is a very popular and well-respected show among old-time radio fans. We all tend to be very big fans of this show. Really well done. Of course, you know me. The reason why I'm wearing Spider hat and doing this show at all is because I love the horror hosts. My favorite characters and storytellers from old-time radio were the creepy, pre-Elvira, pre-Svengoolie, like the horror hosts of radio. And the Mysterious Traveler was a great one. This character, voiced by the actor Maurice Tarplin, was wild on so many levels. First off, the premise of the show is you're on a train and you're traveling with this stranger, and the stranger has kind of this creepy, friendly way of talking to you and addressing you and telling you this story. And he tells you this story just to entertain you for the train trip. And it happens every week. I guess he's a commuter, just like you. And that's The Mysterious Traveler. It was very popular. They actually were spinning it off during the run of the show. There were two anthology series for radio that came out of this one. One was called The Sealed Book. It mostly used the stories from The Mysterious Traveler that were about murders and crimes, and usually had twist endings. But twist endings were also a big part of the other series that was spun off, called The Strange Dr. Weird, which is so odd because Maurice Tarplin played the Strange Dr. Weird as well. Basically, that series was kind of a best of from Mysterious Traveler, and they would cut the stories down to 15 minutes. It was a 15-minute show. It didn't last very long, but it was really interesting. The Mysterious Traveler will sometimes tell you what his role was in the story. That's right. The mysterious traveler was actually a character in some of these stories. He was almost always some kind of doctor. It says here that in the episode The Accusing Corpse, he appears as a coroner named Roger. And then later, and I know this one, I've heard this one a bunch of times, The Good Die Young, he appears as a general practitioner named Dr. Smith. So I guess we know the mysterious traveler's name. It's Roger Smith. There's a little something you didn't know. Hey, bring that to the bar the next time you go to an old time radio convention. You could win that bet. The writers were always this writing team of Robert A. Arthur and David Cogan. Sorry, David. I was doing so well. And this is really interesting. So there were almost 400 episodes of The Mysterious Traveler. Don't get excited. Only 71 of those episodes are known to have survived. That's like one of the heartbreaking things for me with old time radio. We are missing more than 300 episodes of this show. Now, there were stories about what the shows were and what their titles were, but it's not the same. It's so heartbreaking how much lost media is in this hobby. But we've got this one. It's called Christmas Story. Got a couple of great actors in it. I'll tell you about them at the end of the show. I want to get right into it and give you a chance to hear some of this really fun stuff. Oh, yes. Vincent Price was a horror host for some time. There's actually a series from England called The Price of Fear. And Vincent Price was a host then, too. I'd love to play that one for you sometime. And and Joe Townsell also says, what a shame about the missing episodes. That's a lot of lost traveling, lost to time. And Diana J. Brody says, wow, that's heartbreaking how much was lost. It is heartbreaking. And, the fans of the genre, like Raphael, who's in our audience as well, they can tell you that there are legends among us fans, that there are episodes of these shows that some collectors have found, but they don't share them. So we don't know how many are actually lost, because there are guys out there who will literally die without having shared what's in their collection. It's nuts. What a strange hobby. Okay. Let me just get into this for you. You've hung out with me for a few minutes here. Let's reward your patience. I am going to go over to this is a rather garish video that I'm going to share the screen with, but I love the quality of their performance. So this recording sounds really good. So let's give credit where credit's due. And I'll put up an advertisement for these guys, because that's essentially what their card is on their video. They're selling at theclassicarchives.com. You can find all this stuff for free online, everybody. You don't have to buy this stuff anymore. But once upon a time, we did buy these. But anyway, it's still a good channel. And you know what? I'm going to subscribe, and I'm going to give them their 7th like. And we're gonna start this show. Here we go. From 1951, originally broadcast on Christmas Day. This is Christmas Story from The Mysterious Traveler.
The Mutual Broadcasting System presents The Mysterious Traveler, written, produced, and directed by Robert A. Arthur and David Cogan, and starring 2 of radio's foremost personalities, Lennon and in Christmas Story.
This is The Mysterious Traveler, inviting you to join me on another journey into the realm of the strange and the terrifying. I hope you will enjoy the trip, that it will thrill you a little and chill you a little. So settle back, get a good grip on your nerves, and be comfortable, if you can, as we hear the tale of an enterprising young man. It's the drama I call Christmas Story. The name is Steve Farrell, and I've just gotten through playing Santa Claus. Yeah, you're looking at a guy who really played it to the hilt. It all started last month in Seattle. I was out of a job and down to my last few bucks. I was looking through the morning paper when I noticed this small ad in the personal column. Driving to New York, November 15th. Man wanted to assist in driving. Free transportation. Paul Harris, Hotel Royal. Well, I'd always wanted to see New York, and this was as good as any way of getting there, so I went up to this Hotel Royal to see this guy, Harris. Mr. Harris?
Yes?
My name's Farrell, Steve Farrell. I read your ad in the morning paper.
Oh, yes. Won't you come in?
Thank you. If you haven't already found someone to help you drive to New York, I'd like to offer my services.
Well, as a matter of fact, I haven't. Can you leave for New York a day after tomorrow?
Sure, anytime.
Well, good. Then why not come around at 9 in the morning and we'll get off to an early start?
Okay, Mr. Harris, 9 it is. Let me know when you start driving, Mr. Harris, and I'll take over.
Thanks, I will. Why not call me Paul? Huh?
Okay. Steve is my first name. Lewiston, 30 miles.
Lewiston, that's Idaho, isn't it?
Yeah, we're just crossing the state line into Idaho.
Oh, this is all new to me. I was born and raised in Alaska. This is my first trip to the States.
Well, you're going to see a lot of scenery between here and New York.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it.
Life must have been pretty rugged in Alaska.
Oh, it was. My parents were homesteaders. I never saw a city until a week ago when I arrived in Seattle.
How come you're going to New York?
Well, my parents died last year, and my grandfather, whom I've never seen, wrote asking me to come visit him.
You never seen him, huh?
No. No, there was some sort of squabble between my parents and my grandfather before I was born, and they went to Alaska. And in all the years since then, my grandfather never wrote to them.
Sounds like a stubborn guy.
Yeah, he sure does. What are you going to New York for?
Oh, mainly to look for a job. And I've always wanted to see the big city.
So have I. Do you mind taking over now, Steve? My eyes are getting tired.
Be glad to. Just pull over to the side of the road. It's a long way from Seattle to New York. There wasn't a radio in the car, so we just talked. And mostly we talked about Paul, his life in Alaska, his parents, his grandfather. By the time we hit Columbus, Ohio, there wasn't a thing I didn't know about the guy. And from what he told me, his grandfather was loaded. And even more, he was the old man's only relative. It was obvious the kid was walking into a fortune. Yeah, some guys had all the luck.
So these are the Allegheny Mountains.
Yeah. You better take it easy, Paul. The road's a little slippery.
Okay. How much further to New York?
250 miles. It's getting dark. You better stop for the night at the next tourist court.
All right. Oh, we should be able to make New York by tomorrow afternoon.
Yeah, easy. Your eyes bothering you?
Yeah, a little.
You better let me take over when you get to the bottom of this mountain.
Okay.
You know, you ought to see an eye doctor. Your eyes seem to get tired awful quick.
Well, the truth of the matter
Hey,
is...
look out, kid. We're starting to skid. No, don't jam on the brakes. That only makes it worse. Now, reverse your wheel.
I have. Steve, we're skidding off the road toward the mountain. Give me that wheel and do as I say. We're out of control. We're going over.
When I regained consciousness, I was lying a few feet from the car. We drove 300 feet down the side of the mountain, and the car was completely wrecked. I crawled to my feet and Felt for broken bones. Other than a bad gash on my head and a mass of bruises, I was okay. I limped the few feet to the overturned car and looked in. Paul was still behind the wheel. Even before I reached for his pulse, I had a feeling he was dead. Paul's luck had run out. He'd never see all that dough that was waiting for him in New York. Yeah, it was then that it came to me. I hadn't wished the guy dead, but now that he was, and nobody in the States knew Paul or what he looked like, and on the other hand, I knew everything about him, well, it was a gamble, all right, but there was a fortune in the kitty. I went to work switching our clothes and all identification. Just as I finished, a state police patrol car came along the mountain road and spotted the wreck. They took me to headquarters, where I made a complete statement. A couple of hours later, I grabbed a train for New York.
Paul, I'm George Marlowe, your grandfather's attorney.
How do you do, Mr. Marlowe?
The Pennsylvania State Police informed me of the dreadful accident you had. I understand a man who was with you was killed.
Yes, a fellow by the name of Steve Farrell. I met him in Seattle. He assisted me with the driving.
Too bad, but thank heavens it wasn't you. It would have been your grandfather's death blow.
How is he?
Weak, very weak, but eagerly waiting to see you. All right, come along.
Yes, sir.
How's that gash on your head?
Oh, not too bad. It was treated by a doctor at the state police headquarters.
Look, you can only spend a few minutes with your grandfather, and excitement must be avoided by all means.
I understand.
And here we are. How is he, Joan?
He's much better this afternoon.
Good. Joan, this is Paul Harris. Paul Joan Dietrich, your grandfather's nurse.
How do you do?
Hello.
Paul. Is that you, Paul?
Yes, sir.
Come over here, where I can see you.
Yes, grandfather.
So, you're Paul, my grandson.
Yes, sir.
Sit down by my bed and let me look at you.
All right, grandfather.
You don't look like your mother. Must take after your father's side of the family.
Yes, I do.
That bandage. What happened, Paul?
Well, I was in an accident, but it's nothing, just a scratch.
You're sure?
Yes, of course.
I suppose you're wondering why I sent for you after all these years. Cutting off your mother, father.
Does it matter now? The main thing is, I'm here.
You know, lying here for months, I've had a great deal of time to think things over. I was wrong, Paul. Your mother, she had a perfect right to marry anyone she wished. It was only my stubbornness that prevented the reconciliation.
We all make mistakes.
Yes, but 30 years of not seeing my own flesh and blood. It's been lonely, Paul. So lonely. And all my fault.
But you're not alone anymore. I'm here.
Yes, Paul, yes. What little time I have left, we must spend together.
I think that's enough for now, Mr. Marshall. Paul can come and see you later, after your
But
nap.
just a few more minutes, John.
After your nap.
Oh, she's a wonderful girl, Paul, as soon as I'm awake.
All right, grandfather.
Now let me fix your pillows, will you?
Just your being here seems to have helped him, Paul.
What do the doctors say, Mr. Marlowe?
Week, month, several months at the outside.
That bad, huh?
Yes. Well, you must be tired after your trip. I had your suitcase taken to your room. Do you have any other luggage on the way?
There's a small trunk coming, but it won't be here for weeks. If you need any money, just let me know. Your grandfather's placed a considerable sum at your disposal. Thanks. But I still have 2,000 left of the 5,000 he sent me. Very well, Paul. Remember, if there's anything at all you want, just let me know. Yeah, I was in. There was no question that I'd passed as Paul Harris. And why not? I had all the answers, and I was playing it careful. I walked through room after room of that Fifth Avenue mansion, knowing that within a matter of months it would be mine. In the weeks that followed, not a day passed, and I didn't spend a few hours with the old man. He liked me, I could see that. And the funny thing is, I liked him, too. During our little chat, there were times I felt I was his grandson. And sitting in at these little sessions, not saying much, just watching with those gray eyes of hers, was Joan Dietrich. She was one lovely dish. And I could feel things building between us. Whenever she got an evening off, we went out together. Having a good time?
Wonderful. I love dancing. But, Mr. Harris, what are we doing out here on the terrace? Music's in there.
Too many people in there. You know, if you don't make a pass at me soon, I'm going to get discouraged.
Ours is a short acquaintance. 3 weeks.
What's the time got to do with it? The day I walked into my grandfather's room, first saw you, you knew this moment would come.
Oh,
I feel the same way, baby. So I was sorry. Love me?
you know I do.
And why the tears?
Oh, I do love you. And I want to believe in you, but I'm so confused. So confused.
About what? Go on. I want to hear.
Are you really Paul Harris?
What makes you ask that?
In your talks with Mr. Marshall, several things you said seemed strange.
Such as?
Your grandfather spoke of a restaurant in San Francisco, and you said you knew it. Yet if you are Paul Harris, how could you not? Paul Harris has never been to San Francisco.
I might have taken in San Francisco on the way to New York, you know. What else bothers you?
You mentioned the television show you'd seen 6 months ago. There is no television in Alaska. If you're Paul Harris, how could you have seen it?
People up in Alaska see kinescopes of television shows, baby. They're shown like movies.
Darling, just tell me I'm wrong. That's all I want to hear.
I wish I could tell you I'm Paul Harris. But I'm not.
You're not?
No. The name is Farrell. Steve Farrell.
Steve Farrell. Wasn't that the fellow that was killed in that... It was Paul Harris who was killed. You changed identity.
Yes.
Oh, how could you? How could you?
I was tired of being broke, of going from one lousy job to another. I saw a chance to grab a fortune and took it. What are you going to do?
I should go to the police. I can't. Mr. Marshall thinks you're his grandson. He's extremely fond of you. If the truth were to come out, it'd kill him.
Is that the only reason you can't go to the police?
Oh, Steve, what are we going to do?
Nothing.
Nothing.
That's right. I'm going on being Paul Harris until the old man dies. Then I'm taking the estate.
You can't, Steve. You can't.
Why not? While the old man's alive, I'm making him happy. If I get his estate when he dies, who loses by it? It isn't as though he has other relatives. Why shouldn't I get it?
No, it's wrong, Steve. It's wrong.
It's wrong only if you're caught, baby. Only if you're caught. Hello, baby. What you doing up here on the roof?
Just getting a little fresh air while Mr. Marshall sleeps.
How is he?
He can't last more than a few days.
Who you crying for? The old man? Or me?
Both of you. Oh, Steve, ever since the other night when you told me, I haven't been able to think of anything else. It's wrong, Steve. It's so wrong.
Who am I hurting if I get the estate? I deserve it if anyone does. At least I'm making the old man happy in his last hour.
What is your cause? Do you realize they'd send you to prison?
That's the chances you take, baby. Besides, who's going to get wise to me?
There's Mr. Marlowe, and he's nobody's fool. Just one little slip, Steve, and he'll be on to you.
Marlowe's a sharp citizen, all right, but I don't intend to make that one slip. Oh.
Someone's coming up under the roof.
Hello, you two. Thought I'd find you up here.
Hello?
How are you, Mr. Marlowe?
Quite well, thank you. I understand Mr. Marshall's asleep.
Yes, I left Mrs. Walker to look after him. He should be waking up soon.
Maybe we better go down. My grandfather and... Oh!
What's the matter?
Something in your eye, Paul?
Yes, it's a cinder.
Oh, left eye, huh?
Yes.
Well, stop rubbing it. Put your handkerchief over it. That's it.
Stings like the devil.
Go on over and sit on the chair. And I'll try to take it out for you.
You want me to assist you to the chair?
No, I can still walk.
Now sit down and tilt your head back. That's it. Take the handkerchief away. Oh, I see it. Hold still. There. I got it.
Thanks, John.
I think we better go down now.
Yeah, okay.
You coming, Mr. Marlowe?
What? Oh, yes. I'm coming.
Mrs. Walker said that Mr. Marshall was asleep and she looked in on him a few minutes ago.
Seems he's still sleeping.
Perhaps we'd better leave and wait until he wakes.
No. I'm going to wake him. It's time for his medicine. Mr. Marshall? Mr. Marshall? Time for your medicine. Mr. Marshall?
What is it, Joan?
There's no pulse.
Are you sure?
Yes. He's dead.
Well, at least the end came peacefully. He died in his sleep.
Jones took the old man's death hard, and I felt pretty upset myself, even with all that dough waiting. As for Marlowe, he was his usual efficient self, looking after all the details of the funeral. Maybe it was the tension I was under, but Marlowe seemed changed. He wasn't quite so friendly. And sometimes I turned to find him watching me, giving me the cold eye. I couldn't be sure whether it was my imagination or not. After we got back from the funeral, I was in my room when there was a knock on the door. Come in. Oh, hello, Joan. Come in.
Mr. Marlowe's downstairs in the library. Wants to see you.
Close the door.
Anything wrong?
Plenty.
Whose trunk is that you're going through?
Paul's. It arrived this morning while we were at the funeral.
Steve, what's wrong?
I've just been going through some of Paul's personal papers. I knew, of course, that he was 4F in the draft, but I never knew why.
What are you trying to tell me?
Paul was 4F in the draft because he was blind in the right eye.
Blind in the right eye?
Yes. That's why I've been getting the cold shoulder from Marlowe these past 3 days, ever since the afternoon we were on the roof.
I don't understand.
Somehow Marlowe knew that Paul was blind in the right eye, and when I got that cinder in my left eye, I covered it with my handkerchief. You told me to walk across the roof to the chair, sit down.
Oh, yes, I remember.
At that point, Marlowe offered to lead me to the chair.
Knowing you were blind in the right eye and had your left eye covered with a handkerchief.
Yes. When I walked over to the chair without hesitation, that must have started him thinking.
Oh, Steve.
Now, don't get panicky, baby. Marlowe can't be sure he's right. At the moment, he's just suspicious.
But if he really investigates...
I've got to kill the suspicion in his mind. Stop him from doing any checks.
But how?
I don't know yet. Now, come on, he's waiting for us in the library. Sorry to have kept you waiting, Mr. Marlowe.
Quite all right.
If you'll excuse me, I'll go.
Joan, don't go. No reason why you shouldn't hear what I have to say. Tomorrow, Christmas Day, I'll officially read Mr. Marshall's will. However, I don't think I'm violating a trust in telling you the contents of the will. 2 weeks ago, Mr. Marshall had me draw up a new will, leaving his entire estate to you, Paul.
I see.
He was quite taken by you, felt that you were a credit to his name. Why are you crying, Joan?
Nothing.
As administrator of Mr. Marshall's will, it is my duty to see to it that the heirs, or heir, receive their just inheritances. This duty I shall fulfill.
I understand.
I am responsible under law for the awarding of the huge estate left by Mr. Marshall. I shall have to... Is your eye troubling you? You've been doing nothing but rubbing it since you came into this room.
Sorry, Mr. Marlowe. As you know, I'm blind in my right eye, and now and then my left eye feels quite strained, particularly at a time like this. My grandfather's death, the funeral. You understand?
Right. Yes. Yes, of course.
You were saying?
What? Oh, well, it's not important at the moment. I'll be here tomorrow at 3 for the reading of the will.
I'll see to it that all the servants are here.
Very well. Good night, Joan. Paul?
Good night, Mr. Marlowe.
Good night. No, I didn't get to sleep that night. I just tossed and turned, trying to come up with an angle that would kill Marlowe's suspicions. Maybe that business of rubbing my eyes had satisfied him, but I had to make sure. It was a difference between being handed a fortune and a prison sentence. This afternoon at 3 o'clock, the servants, Joan, Marlowe, and myself gathered in the library. The whole thing was over in an hour. The servants all congratulated me and left the library, leaving only the three of us there.
I should like to offer a toast to Mr. Marshall's memory, if you'll permit me.
Of course.
This was his favorite sherry. Joan?
Thank you.
Paul?
Thanks.
Here's to Peter Marshall, a man who lived honorably, died honorably. May his heir be worthy of him.
As the three of us raised our glasses to our lips and drank, I could see Marlowe watching me over the brim of his glass with those cold blue eyes of his. We set down our glasses, and I turned to give Joan a cigarette. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Marlowe pick up one of the 3 wine glasses. Suddenly, I realized it was my glass he picked up. He held it casually, almost as if he didn't know he was holding it. In that moment, I was going nuts, trying to guess whether he was satisfied that I was Paul Harris or he was still suspicious and going after me. My fingerprints were on that glass, and the Army had a copy of those prints in Washington. This was it. Either I play my cards and go for the fortune, or throw in my hand. Suddenly, I felt Joan's hand in mine. Say, Mr. Marlowe.
Yes?
You say this will, leaving me my grandfather's estate, is a new one.
Yes. I drew it up only 2 weeks ago.
What was the old will like?
Well, under the old will, your grandfather's estate went to charity.
I thought as much. Mr. Marlowe, Joan and I have been talking things over. I don't want the estate. I want it all to go to charity, as originally intended.
Me, I seem to have dropped my glass. You realize, of course, what you would be giving up.
I never really had it, Mr. Marlowe, so I hardly think I'll miss it. Joan and I'll get along, won't we, baby?
Oh, yes.
Well, Paul, is that your considered decision?
It is?
It's a gesture worthy of Peter Marshall's grandson.
Yes, and that little gesture did it. Any guy who gives up a $2 million estate can hardly be called an imposter, can he? No, sir. It's Christmas, and I've just played Santa Claus to the tune of $2 million. The thing I keep wondering about is, what would have happened if I hadn't given up the estate? Would Marlowe have gone after me? Or was he satisfied that I was Paul Harris? Yes, sir. That little puzzle is going to give me plenty of thought for a long time to come.
This is the mysterious traveler again. Did you enjoy our trip? Or what happened to Paul Harris? Or rather, I should say, Steve Carroll? He and Joan were married. Oh, you'll have to get off here. I'm sorry. But remember, I take this same train every week at the same time.
And there you go. Very direct. Gotta love it. And that's it. That is The Mysterious Traveler. Hang on, let me close this window. And Christmas Story. I hope you liked it. I really love how this show is written. Yeah, Raphael liked it. Quite a Christmas story. So sweet. Joe Townsell, who's written many, many great stories himself. If it hadn't been Christmas time, he never would have given up the estate. Oh, I wonder. That is a very interesting angle on it, Mr. Townsell. Diana J. Brody says a heartwarming tale. Excellent. Good to know that it can touch everybody's heart. It is very much to the credit of Mysterious Traveler that Raphael says I was being sarcastic. Well, it works both ways, Raphael. It works both ways. Chris says $2 million you can take care of Marlowe. Oh, well, that is very much the radio mystery way of doing things. That is for sure. I am a very big fan of the main writer on this show, and he was a guy named Robert Arthur Jr. Now, I don't know about you. I was a kid in the 1970s. As a matter of fact, in third grade, I discovered my very, very favorite detective stories. And my brother loved the Hardy Boys. And of course, everybody, when I was a kid, the Hardy Boys were, the standard of child detective novels. But I discovered different detective novels that I really loved. And there was a series that was called Alfred Hitchcock Presents The Three Investigators. And there's a kid, Jupiter Jones, and his two friends, but Jupiter's the main kid. And he's super smart, a super genius. And he does a great imitation of Alfred Hitchcock. And at one point, he meets Alfred Hitchcock, and Alfred Hitchcock becomes like his sponsor and helps him out whenever Jupiter and his buddies, the three investigators, need to solve a case. It is wild. These stories are wild. I loved them. And I remember them from third grade like I remember nothing else from third grade, but I remember that. Oh, and the bullies. Yeah, I remember the bullies too. Sure, we all had those. So he wrote the three investigators stories, which I loved. And he also wrote The Mysterious Traveler. Of course, he did it with his writing partner, David Kogan. Unfortunately, very little known about David Kogan from what I could see. The two of them won 3 times Mystery Writers of America. They were awarded Edgar Awards for their radio work. They won twice for Best Radio Drama. One of the shows they did, Mysterious Traveler. One of the other shows they did, Murder by Experts. That's a great series. I'll play you something from that one of these days. And just outstanding achievement in producing, directing, and writing radio shows, as they did on The Mysterious Traveler. Really fantastic. Now, the actors I alluded to a little bit. Leon Janney, of course, plays Paul, Stephen, who is playing Paul. Leon Janney was a child actor in Hollywood. He was actually, for one movie, he was a little rascal. His character's name was Spud, but he was a little too old. And Hal Roach was like, I love this kid, but he's too old to be one of the little rascals. He went back to New York, where he'd been born, Leon Janney, And then he was quite the Broadway actor. He was in so many shows, including the American version of Three Penny Opera, but so many other shows as well. And he was especially powerful in radio. Now, that was one of those things you would do if you were a stage actor in New York. You would do a lot of radio because you're getting paid like $25 a show, but it's a really great way to make your to pay your bills and wait for that next big show to come along. Leon Janney could be heard starring in quite a few shows that were adventure shows for kids. The Adventures of Dick Cole, Chick Carter, Boy Detective, and he actually played number one son on the radio show The Adventures of Charlie Chan, which, as we know, you didn't have to be the race of the person you played back in those days. And let's talk about Ann Shepard. Ann Shepard was very big in radio. For as big as she was in theater, she was beloved by the creatives in radio. And so a very popular show, Arch Obler's Lights Out, he used Ann Shepard all the time. Now, Ann Shepard, as I said, was born Shayendal Kalish, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. And she was forced to change her name so many times. She not only went as Ann Shepard, she was actually cast many times as Ann Preston, Judith Preston, Ann Sheps, Jenny Shaluda Libman. She was married for a short time to Mr. Libman. Judith Blake, really a great actor. A rose by any other name would be just as sweet. I really love her very natural approach. And when you hear her in Lights Out, she's like one of the best. So, yeah, I guess that'll do it. Let's see if I have lost track of the comments. Jupiter Jones, Diana J. Brody says, great name. I mean, come on. Joe says, borrowed every Hardy Boys from the local library when I was a kid, even read a few Nancy Drews. Very open-minded of you, sir. I was not a kid who could read a girl book myself. Really wish I hadn't grown up so repressed. I was a boxcar kids and Bobsy Twins gal. I had no idea about that about you, Diana. Holy cow, that's really cool. I did know this. How did I know this? Encyclopedia Brown. Yeah, who didn't love Encyclopedia Brown? Chris says, I started out at 6 with Trixie Belden and the Bob White Club Mysteries. My mom loved the Trixie Belden books. We had those around the house, I think, for a little time. Yeah, back in the 50s. Yeah, that's really cool. Spud was a little rascal. He never reached the Spanky or Alfalfa status. I know, it's kind of like the guys who were in the first version of Jefferson Airplane. I don't know. It's a weird comparison. Did Spud have big eyes? Tom Corbett, Space Cadet. That was my deal. That's so cool, Raphael, because Maurice Tarplin actually appeared in a bunch of Tom Corbett Space Cadets. Crazy. Maurice Tarplin, who, of course, was the voice of the mysterious traveler. And Chris says, I saw Frank Sutton and Tom Corbett. He played a cadet. Yeah. Oh, that's really cool. I should tell you about the stuff we have coming up. There's so many things that I have not been paying attention to. Next week here on the show, we are going to do yet another Sherlock Holmes mystery. This is one that I found that early on for me was one of my favorite radio shows. My parents gave me a set of cassettes. I don't still have them. I don't, right? I might have to go look through some boxes. But they were a set of cassettes. They bought them at Fisherman's Wharf in San Francisco. And they were of a 1953 to 1954 series that was done in England and also played here in the U.S., in which Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson are played by John Gielgud and Sir Ralph Richardson. And two actors that I knew as a little kid and was so cool to hear them do these very faithful to the original material Sherlock Holmes stories. This is not Roma wines. This is not, Dr. Watson drinking wine and telling these stories. This is very straight and very traditional. And that's why we're going to be listening to the Sherlock Holmes story, The Adventure of the Blue Carbuncle, actually called The Blue Carbuncle. That's going to be next week here on the show. And Joe says, a Christmas goose from John. Sit on John's lap for a Christmas goose. My God, you guys can't get over the Christmas goose. He's a very big part of the story. The goose. And I warn you, this illustration probably represents nothing that happens in this episode. It was just something I threw together. This weekend, starting on Saturday, we're not going to be doing Retro Trekkers because it's time once again for one of our, and there's only going to be a few of them. Maybe a dozen, maybe a few more than a dozen, but it is a limited series, and that would be Joe Townsel's Dread Time Stories. Joe reads one of his stories for you, and that's our show. It's as simple as that. Yeah, I'm a producer of it, and I got to tell you, it's a really easy show because Joe is such a great storyteller. He is going to read for you his story, take a picture. I'm telling you, you don't know anything about this story. Even if you know a little about this story, you don't know anything about this story. So enjoy some horror and some dread and a thriller from Joe Townsel this coming Saturday. Now, that's going to happen at 5 p.m. Here on the East Coast, here on the West Coast, and 8 p.m. back on the East Coast. That's Saturday night. At basically the same time the next day, we are bringing you our Retro Rangers show, and this is going to be fun. We're going to be doing the Star Wars holiday special. Oh, it's crazy. And some other related stuff. We'll have our good friend Craig Lubin with us, and we're going to get into some of that science fiction Christmas, and probably one of the worst things ever put on television, from what people say. Now, I do have to say, I personally have never watched it. So you're going to see me for real, in real time, watching that. Now, as Diana J. Brody points out, and she's absolutely right, that is on our other YouTube channel, Retro Rangers HQ, because Retro Rangers can get in trouble with YouTube sometimes because we like to show you actual stuff and review it live and react to it live. And YouTube's not exactly built to do that. So go over to our other channel. Please like and subscribe. Retro Rangers HQ, all one word. And no, we did not check to see if there were other Retro Rangers out there. And actually avoid all of the Power Ranger stuff. There's a ton of Power Ranger stuff on YouTube, which, by the way, why are we getting in trouble when these other guys are just putting up episodes of Power Rangers? Huh? Anyway, it's not you I'm yelling at. I'm sorry. Sometimes Daddy just gets mad. Darth Weber. True Survival Weekend. And Joe cannot wait to read to you because, as Diana says, I can't wait to hear a for real Joe Townsel story. That is the beauty of our great show, Joe Townsel's Dread Time Stories. And I guess that's it. I never played the open, so that's okay. We won't do that. And I'm going to play the outro. Diana says, Joe, I'm going to have to watch after because I got stuff on Saturday. Yeah, it's a busy time of the year, but I'm still excited to hear an original Townsel. Once we're done with it, it will be up on YouTube and you'll be able to hear it. And of course, it will be up on our initial, no, that's not it. Here it is. Our initial channel, and that is Weber Internet Thingy on YouTube. So they're both good. We hope you'll both follow them. Weber Internet Thingy and Retro Rangers HQ. I know it's a lot, but we really appreciate you, going the long way for us. Vent much. If it wasn't for this show, I'd have no therapy. All right, let's end the show here. Thank you so much for watching. What a treat to have you to enjoy this show with. And next week, join us, me and Spider Hat. Join us for Sherlock Holmes. Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a Christmas story, you guys, called The Blue Carbuncle. It's fantastic. We're going to enjoy it together. Bring your goose. Could have been timed so much better. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. All right, my friends, that'll do it for the show. See you next week. See you Saturday. See you Sunday. That'd be great. Hey, if you got any time this weekend, Joe and I would love it if you join. Take care.
Snowflakes dancing in silver air, joy and wonder are everywhere. Stories shared by firelight make Christmas happy, warm and bright. Ho, ho, horror, what's beneath the tree? Ho, ho, horror, gifts as far as you can see. Every story has a turn when the shadows come to call. Ho, 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 best gift of them all. Pages turning in the dark, tales that leave their lasting mark. Every gift wrapped just for you holds a nightmare coming true. The stories crawl across your mind, leave reality behind. When darkness falls on Christmas Eve, there's no escape, you cannot leave. Ho, 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 horror, what's beneath the tree? Ho, ho, horror, now you finally see. Every story has a cost when the creature comes to call. Ho, 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 claims us one and all.